Stuart, as you know, on siding, the finish is vitally important, whether it be vinyl, wood, steel, aluminum. That finish is vitally important, and what you want to get is some longevity and something that's warrantable.
So you're saying that the paint itself is different? I mean, there's different qualities of paint, and that'll really affect the end result of the product?
Absolutely, and always remember, good paint is not cheap and cheap paint is not good. And what we're doing here is we're taking and mixing our own premium product to apply to that LP siding.
So how does this paint product differ from others?
Well, what we're using, instead of taking a tint base and adding a synthetic man-made tint that has the vulnerability of fade, we're taking the 8 primary colors and we're using as colorants mineral. For instance, you know, rock doesn't fade in color, right? We're taking those minerals and we're using those as colorants in our paint.
And so this isn't man-made, this is earthen materials, and so that's going to really create a higher longevity for the consumer?
Absolutely, and what we're looking for is color steadfastness. We want that color to last for a long period of time, and that's how we can warrant it for 30 years.
Okay, so what's involved in the mixing process?
Well, it's all done according to weight. If it's a custom color, we'll take a color swatch, we'll computer match it, and then Samantha will go ahead and she'll mix up that color, and it's all done by weight. If it's a standard color, well, we have those formulas on file, and we'll just go ahead and mix them and go ahead and apply them to the siding.
Well, that's interesting to know from a consumer standpoint that there are standard colors that come with the LP Smart Side, but it's also possible to customize it, send in a swatch, and you can pretty much get any color you want for your home?
Absolutely, and we'll do an actual drawdown or a sample of that color, and we'll send it to that customer for them to sign off to make sure that they're okay with that color matching process.
Okay, so the paint product itself is very important. What about the application process? Is that important?
The paint applied to the siding is first and foremost of importance because, again, you can take the best product in the world, and if you don't apply it properly, you're not going to get the longevity you need. So the process is vitally important. In fact, let me take you over and show you how we do that, Stuart. Stuart, as you can see, the product comes in on a full truckload, and it's palletized, and it's also got a shroud on it. We bring it over, take the shroud off. It's now in its prime state, and what we want to do is get that high quality finish on it. So the vacuum bars will pick up the pieces of siding, and then it'll transfer over to the conveyor, and you'll actually see it'll space each piece of siding so that when we spray that finish on, that we get a good amount of colorant on the edges as well. It then goes through the sander. Not only are we sanding the surface, but we're sanding the underside as well.
So why are you sanding both sides of the product?
The reason we want to sand the surface is because your finish is only as good as what it bonds to. So we want to make sure we break up that surface and give it good adhesion. We sand the underside because on LP siding it's a little bit coarse from the mat they use to press it. So we want to make sure we sand it somewhat smooth so that when somebody moves it on that pallet, we're not defacing the piece underneath.
So a lot of thought's gone into this process. There's a lot of automation right from the get-go.
Absolutely. Stuart, as it exits the sander, you can see there's a little bit of debris left on the surface of the siding. We don't want that debris on the surface when we spray our paint on there. So what we're doing at this point here is just backing off any debris before it enters the spray booth.
Well, you know what I really like about the product is the rich wood grain, and as I feel it there, even though you're sanding it, it's still there. You can still see it, you can still feel it, but it's not rough.
We take off just enough so we don't break that paint base overlay that we have on there as a primer, because remember, we want good paint adhesion.
And this machine right here is essentially a high-tech vacuum cleaner?
Just takes off that dust and debris is all it does, and then it enters our spray booth.
Now here in the spray booth, this must be what sets you apart from a flood coating system.
This is what sets us apart from the flood coaters, and as you can see, what we're doing is we're specifically metering a specific amount of paint across the entire surface of the board. And you can see essentially we're going to get 2 coats in one pass because the guns are on at the beginning of the booth, and then again they turn on at the back of the booth. Now what I can tell you is we're going to get 6 wet mills of paint on this product, and when it dries down, it dries to about 2.5 to 3 dry mills. So I can tell you that whether it be the high point or the low point of the siding, it's going to have the same amount of paint on it, where a flood coater goes through a cascade or a curtain of paint, and basically it's wherever that paint settles to, it's going to have more in the valleys, a little bit less on the high points.
So do you get a superior end result here with this by all the technology and the precision application?
Consistent. Remember, always want that consistent quality. The only way to achieve that is with a system like we have here.
Is it also more environmentally friendly?
We use all waterborne finishes, and again, you know, the LP product is a wood product, nothing greener than that, and specifically harvested. So again, you're not going to find a greener product than the one we're providing here.
Okay, so we can see it coming out of the spray booth. What happens to the product now?
The product then goes into our big oven and bakes at a ½ hour to 45 minutes. And the purpose of that is to give it a little bit of pencil hardness, and also so that we can ship it in the next 24 to 36 hours. Once it leaves the oven, it goes into a cooling chamber. We have to cool this product down before we palletize and slip sheet it. So we want to cool it down, and that's what's happening here. It's transferring from that point over to the feeder.
Now, what is the purpose of the visqueen or the slip sheet as you put it?
We slip sheet every layer because somebody leaves a shroud off overnight. We don't want to have moisture migrate down in between every piece of siding on the entire pallet. We just want to make absolutely certain that we don't get any defacing and that we have a water barrier between each layer. So if you leave the shroud off, we don't want water to impregnate all the way in between that siding. We want to make sure that if anything's to happen, it's just one layer of siding that's affected.
Well, I tell you, Dusty, I got to hand it to you. It's an impressive facility, an impressive process. Anything else go on here?
I want to show you one more thing, Stuart, that I think our contractors are really going to be excited about.
Oh, wow, Dusty, these are pre-made corners?
A pre-made corner, and the beauty of this pre-made corner is rather than having one piece overlap the other, you know, some people feel this edge is kind of unsightly.
Well, sure, that's a traditional way of doing it out in the field.
Right, just overlapping the two, but what we're doing is actually molding the edges on these pieces, and then we bring them together and create that one-piece corner.
Wow, that is a superior looking corner. That's got to save the contractor a lot of time in the field.
Saves a lot of time in the field, and there's nothing better than having a one-piece corner rather than having to overlap the two and have that unsightly edge.
Sure, so not only labor saving, but it gives a superior end result as well for the homeowner.
A superior end result, and also you can get them finished rather than just having them primed.
As we just saw, there really is no substitute for a factory finish, and the Diamond Kote finish is backed by a 30-year warranty against fading, including 100% labor and materials for the first 7 years.